I done got stupid, Spencer.
Stupid is, stupid is.
Every once in a while, this is going to sound a little weird, I go on math binges, or as everyone that's not American probably says, maths, plural. We say math. Mathematics. So what had happened was, it usually starts with me watching Good Will Hunting clips.
Yeah. Or like A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah, well, that's where it progresses, and then the theory of everything. And then I find the real mathematicians, and it always, for some reason, has a weird trajectory where I watch the one clip of Good Will Hunting, and I've done this multiple times, and my stupid monkey brain doesn't remember. I watched the clip where he's doing the trees on the board. I forget what the fucking name of those are. I don't know if it's string theory or something, but he's doing that on the board. It's supposed to be the unsolvable thing. In real life, it's not that hard. But there's a guy, some really nerdy math guy, has a YouTube channel, very informative actually, and he like just tells you how to do it. Like, yeah, and it's not hard, but it make you feel smart. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not that bad at math, right? Then I saw a video related to that, and you know what that video was? The hardest SAT math question.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, I'll check this out. And I watched it. Fuck, could have been written in ancient Egyptian for all I knew. Like, it was ridiculous. And
some kind of space language.
Fucking unsolvable. Clearly aliens came down and scribbled that with their lasers. Like, that's not real anything. And then the guy solves it, and again, I watched it, but I'm like, okay.
It doesn't mean anything.
It didn't mean anything. But then this is where I just, because I always like the idea of the Renaissance man. You're not like great at anything necessarily, but you know, you're decent at math. You read fine literature, you know, you exercise, like, you know, just to be a good person and, you know, just be a better man.
Well balanced.
But I always ignore mathematics because I just never liked math in school because we have a dumb fucking education system in this country. And I decided I was going to look at the comments of this video to see if anybody else thought this was a actually tough mix. I don't know.
Yeah.
It says the hardest SAT question. The amount of Indians in the comments going, in our elementary schools or whatever, they have primary schools or something. That's like the kids learn that. What? This is buffoonery. Yeah. They're just pretty much stating that their tests are ridiculously hard. Oh, and that they said that wouldn't even been an example warm up on their test.
Oh.
Our hardest question. And I was looking in the comments, and then the Chinese kids got involved.
Oh my God.
And, kids. Now, I'm not saying these are adults. These are kids in school still saying how ridiculous like that we find this hard. So I looked up like why Americans dumb at math, and Americans be dumb at math because they just dumb. I'm like, okay.
But you could also probably put in any subject in there, you know, why are Americans so dumb blank at anything?
Yeah, and it'll show up. Endless list. So I downloaded a math app, which is actually like my Duolingo app. Like it's set up the same way, like a tree. So I like it. It's pretty cool. So I did like the mental, because they have different, like all these different categories. I was like, well, I'll just learn how to do everything because that's probably what I need.
Yeah.
So I started with just the mental math. I was like, well, I do mental math at work for basic numbers. I might be okay at this. And I did, you could have it's a sliding scale, easy to hard. So I did easy first, and I was like, 5 + 5. I'm like, okay, fuck that. Just did all the way up to hard. That can't be so bad. And it was just like, you know, what's 3,800 minus 2,200? Like, it was still really easy. I did it all mentally, and I'm like, oh, I'm not so bad. Let me just skip straight to fractions and stuff. Because that's kind of where I get vague on what I remember from school. It's like, I can do some algebra, but I always need, like, the PEMDAS refresher, like, you know, the parentheses, exponents, all that shit. Like, I always need a little refresher for that, but I was always okay at that. But I never advanced beyond any of that stuff, which was, I remember, I think we learned in middle school, probably.
And, like, also, too, I just remembered, like, getting to math whenever like whenever the letters started getting involved, like this is bullshit.
This is fucking dumb.
Well, why is there letters in those numbers?
Yeah, and don't even get started on like a sigma, because I still don't know necessarily what that is. Like the big E looking thing.
Oh yeah,
infinity sign above it. I don't know what any of that means. So I did like the decimals and stuff, or the fraction decimals. I never had a problem with. This is the fraction part of it, you know. So I was like, I don't remember how to multiply these, but they have little examples, and it'll just show you. And literally just one quick read over, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to slide that scale up to hard. Yeah. And what probably would take a fucking elementary school kid in India to do in like 30 seconds, it probably took me like 5-10 minutes. But I was like, I still did it. I was like, all right, this is something I could do. Let me just jump up straight to trigonometry. I never even took trigonometry. I don't know anything about it. Alien language. Geometry, terrible. couldn't do anything. And that was on the easy scale. I'm like, I can't believe I'm this bad at math. So I'm just going to start multiplication, division, just the real dummy kindergarten stuff that I already know how to do. You know, I would like to think we both know how to do those sufficiently, and just work my way up. So when I get to like the algebra stuff that I don't remember, I can, you know, I already have like a little refresher on the old math. Because I don't know about you, but I hardly even do division in my day-to-day math.
No.
And I do a lot of invoice stuff. Like, I just never have to. The most I do is just adding, subtracting, sometimes a little multiplying.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Multiplying is the most of the... But even that 2 times, like, sometimes you're just, like, you hit something, and it'd be, like, a weird, like, you know, because, like, you'll have, like, a case of... Your case has this many in there, and you have this many cases, and it'd be, like, a weird number, and it takes you an extra minute, like, what is that again? Like, you gotta be, like...
I did learn something interesting about myself, though, is I've apparently been doing Common Core math in my head this whole time. I didn't know, because I never knew, you know, we didn't have Common Core when we were kids. That's where it's like, you know, if you're trying to get a number, you have to do, like, the whole fucking list of whatever shit. So, you know, you're trying to get to, like, 30, you have to do 5 plus 5 plus 5, like, whatever dumb shit, you know. So, but I've apparently always done that in my head, where it'll be like, you know, I gotta get to 30 and subtract something. I'll do like the even numbers and then the odd or whatever. So I was like, oh, well, I guess that's good, because I think that's how like the Asian kids learn math when they're, you know, 2 or 3.
Would you ever see like those like either the Instagrams or the TikToks like things where like it's like they have the math problem, but they have like, you know, either like an Indian or like a Japanese person, and it's like they do it in a weird like where they like are sliding things over, like doing that weird like moving that like, and it's like they just do it without it like without any explanation. It's like, well, I don't know what you're doing. You're just moving these numbers around, and they
just assume you're supposed to know.
Right?
We don't know. But like I like to think of myself as at least an average intelligent American. So that makes me think
that's still not that high though.
Well, not worldwide, no. But I just like to think like, or it just makes me think, what is that like? What are the non-smart people, which is most people we know? Like, how do they do any of this stuff? They probably don't concern themselves with it for one. But I'm just like, that kind of scares me.
Well, I even know at like at work, whenever I do have to do something, like I'll be like, I'll do something and like I'll still bring out my phone, but like make sure I'm not fucking this up. Like make sure I'm not dumb right now. Like and get on the calculator just to double check myself.
Always a lot of second guessing. But Americans ranked like one of the highest in first world nations in math anxiety. So that's a thing.
That just you get all worked up about math?
When you gotta do math on the spot, you get anxious. And think about it, like if you're going you never been a cashier. I've worked registers in my day. And the worst thing ever
is like when it goes down and they have to do the math. Like,
well, no, that's fine. What's fucking even the tax and stuff? I could do that. No, what's fucking the scariest thing in the world is somebody hands you the money, and after you ring it up, they're like, "Oh wait, I got 75 cents." And you're just like, you already did the thing on the computer, so now you have to mentally give them whatever change they're trying to get. And you're just like, usually it's something stupid. It's like, I got 67 cents. You're like, oh fuck. So how do I make? What do I give you $1? I don't. Oh god. Do you want a 20? Just take the register. I don't know.
I'm gonna pop it open. You take what you want, and I'll close it.
I've honestly said to people, because we used to get a lot of the people who own the gas stations around here, they are always kind of swindling businesses to get shit for cheap.
Oh, yeah, they come and buy all their their 2 liters for cheap at like a Walmart and then sell it.
But then they'll even try to say, "Oh, this is broken" or something. But when I worked at the fucking discount clothing shop in town, back when I fucking was one of my first, I think it was my first actual job, if you don't count Paperboy. But when I worked there, you'd work the register, and they would go up and pretend they didn't speak, English very well, which they definitely did. And it's just like, you're just lying to me. But what they would do is they would always do those little fucking scam tricks of trying to give you money after the fact, try to trick you into giving them more money back.
That's what I'm just like, look.
I just said no.
I'll be like, look, you already gave me the money. I'm going to give you the change out of this, and that's going to be the end of the transaction.
Listen, ma'am, you are not going to get me an ego play here. I have no ego when it comes to this. I'm just going to say, I'm dumb. I don't know how to do this. If you want this done, get a manager. Yeah. I don't know. I just straight up don't know what the change is. And nope, not trusting you. You don't you don't get the extra change that you're looking for. You got to get a manager to come over here. I don't care. I'm not doing it. Just fucking you should have just gave me the change that you wanted before the transaction was complete. Buy something else. Yeah. Then we could do it. I hate that. like, don't make me do extra
Like,
math.
what were we even using cash anyways? Like, you got, even back then, it's like, come on, you got cards for this.
They
Like,
just did it on purpose so they could rip you off. This is like an old scam. It's like, it's the old, I give you $1, you give me $2, I give you 20, and you give me a 10, and I give you the 10, and you give me a 30, and like, so what are you doing? Are you just...
that like I have fond like memories, or not fond memories, but like clear memories of just my brother messing with me when we were little. Be like, so you have that 110, but I have these 5 1s. So something like that. Make it seem like you have the bigger bill, but I have more of the smaller bill, but there's more of it. Like, so.
Well, there was like a trending video I saw. It was, what was it? A guy had like $20 he put down, and then the other guy put $30 down or something, and then the guy bought the $30 with the 20. Like, I made $10, and it was like, no, you didn't make $10. The other guy made money. You didn't, because it was your 20 to begin with.
Right.
But Americans are so bad at math. They're just like, what? Yeah, that makes sense that he got the extra. He bought $30 with his 20, so he got $10. No, because that was your 20. Like, it's just fucking the way it works out. Stupid. So anyway, this fucking 11-minute math conversation. It's all right. It's a book of the month episode, so we're gonna talk about a book here in a minute. So stick around,
folks.
I was gonna say fucks.
Oh,
I was gonna say folks.
We'll go with fucks.
Folks.
Oh.
You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. This is going to be a different one. With me today, Spencer, the Key West Car Washer Church. We've never done double letters.
No.
Yeah. So KW, CW, but fucking KC, same sound.
Yeah.
Same sound. That's all that matters.
It rhymes, kind of.
Yeah, so you Key West car. Actually, I think in Key West with the hurricane, they're getting a lot of car washes right now.
You're right.
Am I fucking low? Why does it look so low on mine? We've been having weird issues with the fucking mixer where like just randomly the volume slowly diminishes on our voices.
It just gives out on us.
I don't know what's happening. But we'll just deal with it for now until we do other stuff. My fucking goatee keeps sticking in the microphone. It's pissing me off. Pissing me off. What do we talk about today, Spencer?
I think we have a book to review today, don't we?
Yeah, I don't want to review stuff. Today we are talking about Chasing the Boogeyman.
Boogeyman.
Isn't it amazing how one letter can change the meaning of something so completely? Boogeyman, scary. Boogerman, gross.
Yeah. And it may be kind of scary.
Grape, delicious treat. Drop the G, not so delicious. Actually, it's pretty bad. Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chizmar. I still don't know if his name's Chizmar or Chizmar or Chizmar. I was going to watch an interview or something to just get the proper pronunciation, but I didn't. But anyway, Spencer, this is a true crime fiction novel.
Yes.
Interesting. I've never read any true crime, but I've watched a lot of true crime TV shows, so I kind of knew what I was getting into. And they have like all the pictures of the crime scenes and stuff in here. First, right off the bat, I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 whiskey shots. I thought this was a very entertaining book.
Yep.
Now, and it's almost too easy of a read, but we'll explain in a minute. I will go with the opening here, and then I'll give you folks I don't know why you'd be listening if cause we're gonna spoil the fuck out of this.
Yeah,
because that's the main talking point here.
As we do with all book of the month.
Yeah, and we'll be spoiling it fairly quickly, and then we can go and talk about math again for another 20 minutes. This novel takes place in, I think it's like 1988, 89. That's where it starts, in Edgewood, Maryland, a small town where Richard Chizmar grew up. Now, what's cool about this book is it's the true crime that happened in their town from his point of view. So as a writer, he kind of gets to fancy it up, The first two up till chapter 2, it's like, it took me a minute to get into it because it's just him talking about the small town he grew up in.
Yeah, like it wasn't bad. If it wasn't
just somebody telling you about their,
If it wasn't for his writing style or like the way he writes, it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
he was able to do it in a way like you still got through it pretty quick.
It just wasn't like, entertaining.
But you needed it though, because it kind of helped set up everything else for the rest of the book.
Exactly. But then you get to chapter 2, I believe, where it's the first girl was murdered. And there's a character in here that he describes that was running amok in their town called the Phantom Fondler. Great fucking name.
Right.
Now, this Phantom Fondler would just go into people's houses, I think mainly just women, and like touch their feet and stuff. But never did anything like violent, just touching them and stuff. And I think he alludes to he talks about some other like criminals in the area and stuff. But we'll speed through all that stuff. It's just essentially there's a killer in town right around the time Richard Chizmar got out of college, and he moves back home with his parents for the time being. He's gonna get married too.
Yeah, so he's trying to save up Brett. I think save up some money and start a magazine.
He's starting Cemetery Dance, which I thought was really cool because that's like one of the most famous horror magazines. Like a lot of Stephen King been published in there and stuff. It's like a very famous magazine, very exclusive to get into nowadays. And it's kind of cool him talking about how he just started as a dumb kid and in his essentially like his parents' garage or whatever. I also really love all the scenes of him and his dad together. Like how he just talked about like especially like the part where they're like fixing stuff and he's just like, I don't like cars. Like he doesn't give a shit, and the dad just being very patient. But just like their chemistry together is really cool. And then like he talks about his mom and stuff. He builds this great picture of his family, all his friends, everything. Like you really feel like you were there with him when he was growing up.
Like that kind of town.
Yeah, it was just like amazing how he was able to almost remind me of Stephen King's Revival at the beginning when he's talking about like the kid growing up and stuff. And it's just like Jamie, I think the kid's name in that. You just get like this small town life, and he does it so well because he actually lived it. Fast forward a little here. We're going to go into the spoiler alert now. The serial killer kills 4 people. I believe that was the total. There's more, but 4 people in his town that they knew of.
Well, there were 5 attempts. There was one that got away.
Yeah, one that got away. And by the time you get to that part, I was completely hook, line, and sinker into this fucking narrative. Now, the first victim, and we don't have to go through all the victims, but the first one, because the killer cuts off all their ears, bites them, sexually abuses them, probably rapes most of them. The first one he doesn't sexually abuse, but he still kills the girl, cuts off her ear. Family's very devastated. The dad ends up committing suicide eventually because of this. Richard does a great job of leaving clues throughout this, because it's still a true crime story, like you'd watch on TV, like how he's writing it, and every chapter ends with the pictures. You see the victims and all the stuff, so you kind of get to see. It like shows the houses he's talking about and all the stuff from his childhood. It's really cool. I really, really enjoyed it. It actually made me want to read more true crime novels.
Right.
But what he did is like he describes like the girls and stuff to like, I mean, most of them he didn't really know, but like they lived in his neighborhood.
Yeah, because a lot of them were like, because like we said, he's back from college.
Yeah,
so
they're younger. They're still in high school.
Yeah, so they're all younger than he is.
But like he knew a lot of like their brothers, or went to school with their brothers, or knew their parents from church, just things like that. Very small town life. Obviously, it's big news. There's a lot of talk about how the neighborhood's on edge and it's bubbling over and people are accusing people. It's just really fucking fun. So much as a murder mystery can be fun, in a true crime story. But we fast forward after a couple more victims. One of the victims gets away, and then you get like a sketch of the killer. And it just builds up to a really cool point. Now here is the biggest spoiler I'm going to have. So definitely check out now. Up till now, I'm just telling you the things, the situation. Yeah. But when you get to the end of this book, and I'm so happy I didn't read anything about this. I didn't look anything up. I literally, this is one of the few books I've ever went into 100% blind.
Yeah, I was just like,
I was very tempted midway through to
check.
Look up. Well, I just want to be like, look up the killers. Like, it's just I want to learn more about the murders. But I was like, no, because they might reveal the killer. I don't want the killer revealed. Turned out I actually did guess.
Yeah, you did. Yes,
I guessed right from a scene early on. I'll get to that. So we get to the end. The killer is revealed to be the first victim's brother. Now, there's a scene where Richard, he's at a gas station, and this is not too long after the first girl was murdered. And Richard went to her funeral, and he runs into like an old coach or something. They're hamming it up or whatever. And then he sees the brother of the girl, and it's kind of awkward. And I don't know, it left a very strange impression on me. And that's why I said, it was like, I bet you it's that guy. Like, something about that just didn't add up. And then when they started talking about like the sexual assaults on the other victims, and I was like, well, he didn't.
The
The first one didn't get sexually assaulted. So I'm like, it either had to be the brother or the dad is what I was thinking, because that's usually, again, I just watched too much true crime.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes. Usually it's someone close to the victim, or at least the first victim. And then if there's no sexual assault, that means it was probably a relation. That was what I was going into. And it turned out I was right. It was the brother. Now at the end of this, which was really cool, it was because he's invested this whole time. He's kind of doing his own little investigation, and he has a reporter friend.
Yep.
Was her name Carly or Carol?
Oh,
It was some Albright.
I think Carol.
Carol, we'll say Carol Albright. It's not really that important, but she is a main facilitator for the action in this, because she's a reporter. She gets the inside scoop. You get to see her progress. Such a fucking great character. You're like, oh, this is really cool. And I also almost looked her up, because I was like, because he alludes a couple times like, oh, I believe that girl one day is going to win the Pulitzer. It's like, oh, did she win the Pulitzer? No, I'll wait. Because after the book, I was like, I'm going to look everything up. I'll see if she won a Pulitzer. She's still writing. And at the end, he talks about how, like, you know, she's an adult. He has kids, and they're meeting up and stuff. And like all these characters, they're so fucking
the detective, the main detective on the case is a really cool character.
Yeah, and he even lets him like ride along and kind of, you know, but he kind of suspects Richard because, you know, he's into all this murder stuff. Like, it's just very cool how everything unfolds. But at the end, the serial killer actually wants to interview Richard, and you're like, what the fuck? And then he goes and he like we're not interviewing him. He wants to talk to him after the killer's caught. Because they had to end up having a new detective check out this cold case.
Yeah, it's like one of those like
because they got a DNA sample
who like just work on cold cases.
Yeah, but it was also like it was done like so realistically.
Well, and that's also when we find out that the brother is actually adopted.
Yeah,
they never knew.
Yeah, you start getting some. Well, the brother doesn't even know. I don't think like they never really. I think
I don't think either the kid, him or his sister knew.
Yeah, and it turns out the brother, his dad didn't commit suicide because of the grief. The brother killed him. He shot him, and then it turns out he killed more people around the country, like a few more victims, and just even that process was really cool. It left you wanting more, but the book ends there, and then right after that, he gives like
it's like an afterword.
Yeah, he gives like an afterword where he tells you that this whole book was fictitious.
Yeah.
Like, so all these characters that were so believable, especially like the reporter girl and stuff, were not, other than his parents and maybe some of his friends, I don't remember, but everybody was just fake. No detective, all the pictures that we saw, the crime scene pictures and stuff, that was just all made up actors, and I was just like, holy fuck.
Yeah, he went all out on.
I've never been sucked in and duped by a book like that. But that's the thing. Like I said at the beginning, his writing is very simplistic. And it's very easy read, and you just fly through it. And it doesn't really seem anything miraculous. No crazy metaphors or anything.
But it's not like simplistic in like simple words.
No, it's just like
it's just something like honestly. And I know like, and it's gonna sound fanboy and like because he gets mentioned in the book a couple times too. But it's very like a Stephen King kind of feel like where he's just weaving this tale that you're just on the ride for.
But here's the thing. It reads like a good writer telling you a story about their life, a true story. But then that's where all of a sudden you realize, oh, this guy's an actual master, because I thought all those characters were real. I thought the events were real. I thought everything was real. And I'm like, well, that's a different, that you made these characters so believable that I thought they were, like, I was going to look up the girl to see if she won a Pulitzer. Like,
well, I knew a little bit more because the reason that we read this is because
we got a recommendation.
We got a recommendation from one of our buddies who work at a comic book shop that we go to, and he's a big horror guy. And he kept on telling me how good the book was, and he told me it's written like he's like, it's fiction, but it's written like a true crime novel. And so like I kind of knew, but even knowing that halfway through the book, I'm like, how much of this is real? I was like, something had to have well, here's the thing. Gave him like the initial idea for this.
Well, I think the Phantom Fawner was real. Yeah. That's what gave him the idea. But first off, I thought it was just like he was embellishing this story. First, before even that, because when you recommended this, I was like, oh, it's like, whoa, okay, Chasing the Boogeyman. That sounds like a cool fiction novel. And I was reading about it, and I still thought, oh, yeah, fiction novel, whatever. But then when I started reading it, because I didn't do any research on it, didn't read any reviews or anything, I was like, oh, this is a true crime novel. This is a fiction novel. And I was like, well, I never read true crime, but and then I started reading. I was like, oh, but the way he writes it, he's probably embellishing and maybe adding, maybe even some of the characters won't be real or something. Like I was like, okay, so it's like a new twist on true crime. No, it's not true crime at all. It's fake. It's a novel. It's a fiction novel.
It's fake true crime.
Fake true crime, and it's done so well. I was pumped when I finished. I was like, oh my God. And I never heard of that. I didn't know people did fake true crime.
And it is.
I thought it was just, oh, here's like a crime story, but it's not real, or it's real. But
you like me only took barely like a week, maybe a little over to read the whole thing.
Yeah. He did, in my opinion, such a good job of writing this that I didn't question the things that would normally, if I went into the story, be like, oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Like him doing the ride along with the detective on a fucking serial killer case. I'm like, that would never happen. Or like some of the questions or some of the inside deets the small town reporter was able to get. And I was like, a lot of that was like, normally I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of bullshit. Like, that's not going to happen that way. But especially the detective, how he treated the kid who just likes horror and he's a writer. Like, he wouldn't have him on a ride along. He wouldn't be, divulging, because a lot of the times he was like, all right, just don't tell anybody. And he would like tell him some, not like earth shattering news, but news that nobody's supposed to know. And you're just like, huh, that's cool. But normally you'd be like, no, that's fucking bullshit. A detective's not doing that.
Like you said, like you were trying to figure out the who the killer was. I didn't even I was just going on for the ride. I wasn't even trying to pick out who it was. I was maybe kind of having some ideas when I was reading it, but I wasn't even trying to figure it out. I was just enjoying the ride. And I also like how there was moments where he played with supernatural a little bit almost.
Yeah.
Like with the boogeyman himself, and there's this haunted house that from when they were kids that nobody, so they almost kind of thought maybe that had something to do with these murders too and stuff, but it eventually didn't. But
everything's explained in a reasonable way.
But again, it's that small town folklore that everybody knows and stuff.
Yeah. So overall, like I said, 5 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed that. And like I said, the writing style, it would have only been a 4 if it wasn't for the fact that I found out everything was fake.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was just like, okay, the writing's not very challenging. I mean, it's not supposed to be challenging, but almost like when I read a Stephen King. But if it was somebody just writing about their friends and family and stuff, and they're just like, well, it doesn't take much effort. You're just writing how they are. But then when you find out none of those people are real, you're just like, oh, no, he made all that up. So that person, all their character traits, all their quirks, all their fucking uniqueness is just made up. That's amazing. That's creating really good characters that the audience believes are real.
Well, and he also gives the book this lore in the beginning, because he's like, oh, when it originally came out in 98 or something like that, which it never came out back then.
Well, that's the thing. I almost looked up. I was like, when did? Because I think he said it was 91 or something.
Yeah.
It was right after the murders. He wrote Chasing the Boogeyman. I was like, oh, that was a book already. And I was like, how did I miss that in my read? When I was fucking ordered the book. You thought that would have came up too, or there would have been a somewhere in it where it was oh, here's the early version, something. I was like, oh, I guess I'll have to look that up after I'm done with this and try to find the early original version. But there is no original version. Didn't exist. Fucking cool.
Yeah, because that's brought up in there's a foreword.
Yeah.
From somebody else, but so even from the foreword, it's all a work.
Work.
The book's just a complete work, just to use wrestling
It's a wrestling gimmick, and he didn't fucking break kayfabe till the very end.
At all.
So good. So I can't I recommended that to my sister. I was like, you gotta fucking read this.
Right, yeah.
I'm trying to get Mindy to read it, but I'm not gonna spoil the ending for her. Just be like, hey, it's true crime. It's really, really good. You got right. She'll fall for a hook, line, and sinker.
Well, that's what I was thinking about getting my one friend. She's that's the only kind of stuff she reads is true crime biographies, that kind of stuff. And I almost kind of just want to give this to her without really saying anything to see if she.
Well, the good thing about Mindy is she doesn't research anything like that, so I wouldn't have to worry about it being spoiled. My sister, I did give her a heads up. I was like, hey, do not read anything about it. Just go into it blind. Trust me, it'll make it so much better. Because if I found out the ending beforehand, that it wasn't real at all and nothing in it was real, I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
I would have gotten to reading. I'm like, well, this doesn't even matter. But it gave the stakes so much higher when you thought it was something that was actually happening. So yeah, that's Chasing the Boogeyman. I don't think we got too much to talk about on that.
I mean, there's other than to really go into the finer details, but again, it's just in case for those fans that are listeners who might not have read it but don't care about being spoiled, don't want to give them all the let them discover some stuff on their own. I'm happy that we read it. It's definitely better than our last Halloween book.
No, I'm not gonna say because then I got added effect. Every time I say it, the lights dim. And that book by Cormac McCarthy that was about stuff. That's all I'm gonna say.
But I definitely want to check out like more of his work because like I read he did a trilogy of short novelettes, and then the last one was like a full novel, Gwendolyn books with Stephen King.
Did you read any of those?
Yeah, I read those first. Those are what made me want to check out that.
Could you tell who was writing what, though, in those? Was it, like, split up, or...?
A little bit. Well, see, the thing is, like, they co-wrote the first book together. And then, well, from what they were saying, like, in one of the back of one of the books, like, Stephen King started the first one, but he kind of petered out on it. And, like, because, like, they were friends, and so somehow Richard got a chance to kind of work on it, so I think he came up with a lot at the end, and then they probably bounced back and forth.
Right.
And then he wrote the second book by himself, because he's just like, I got this in my head now, and it was like, and Stephen King was cool with him just doing it by himself, so he wrote the middle book all by himself, and then Stephen King read that, and was just like, okay, we got to do another one with the both of us again.
Yeah.
And then that's the full book. But it's a little hard to tell because, like we were saying, like they kind of share like not like a writing style, but like they're very similar in a lot of ways. So they meld together pretty well.
Yeah. Stephen King has this... he has a more specific author voice that he, at least a lot of the work I've read, where he just like adds things to the prose that you could tell it's Stephen King. Just like a lot, we covered on the one episode where I was doing, fake writing excerpts or something, but like he throws in things like Chizmar doesn't. Chizmar's more just straight to the story, whereas Stephen King has more of a voice in his work. That'd be the only difference I could really tell. But if you read this and you just said, "Hey, that Stephen King wrote," they'd be like, "Oh, okay, it's a little different than what his normal style is, but I can see it." So yeah, everybody read "Chasing the Boogeyman."
Yes, very good, especially during this time of the year.
Yeah, buddy. Oh yeah, what was the name of that novella you read?
Beach Bodies.
You probably don't remember who that was from, do you?
It was Nick something or other. It was like a really it was a long name.
We could check that out next week. We'll do that in the cold open because I haven't read that, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to it because my reading list is pretty heavy right now. That was a submission actually. Somebody I want to say, was that the one that's coming out on Halloween? Did I tell you
what?
That the Beach Bodies? Is that the one that's coming out on Halloween?
Oh, it's not even released yet.
I don't think so. We got two, but the one I wasn't able to. One was a short story collection, and I sent that off to Ashley to read because again, I don't have time to personally read all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that maybe in the cold open next week because I told both these people we'll do reviews, but we don't have a fucking website anymore to do them. So the best you get is us rambling about it for a couple minutes on the podcast.
Hey.
Anyway, folks, we thank you for listening. You can check us out on Twitter at Drunk Pen Writing, Instagram and Facebook at Drunken Pen Writing, and in the future, CalebJames.com. Maybe, I don't know. I have create a website. Spencer Church, the fucking.
Oh God! What if I had to change it every week?
Oh, the website that would suck. That costs you a lot of money. I don't even remember what you were this week. Something car washer. Key West car washer.
Yep.
That's your OnlyFans.
Yes. That's with them washing them cars and Daisy Dukes.
That's an image I didn't want to see.